My name is McDermott. I work for a global digital recruitment agency called SALT. I've been here for just over 2 years, but I have over 17 years experience for my sins in the data recruitment industry, covering everything from the very technical data science roles all the way through to customer marketing analytics, digital and product analytics, and data strategy. I love my job, very, very passionate about what I do, and I get involved in a lot of blogging. I deliver a lot of online content and really enjoy helping others in progressing their career. So yeah, really excited to be part of this, this course today.
Hi, I'm Tracy Shuff. I'm a career coach at Fourth Rev. I've been a career and executive coach for about 13 years now. Before that, I was in recruitment. And I really enjoy helping individuals identify career paths that means that they really love what they're doing. I switched careers and I absolutely love what I do now, and it's great to help others, to walk with them, to help them explore and gain the career paths that they really really satisfies them. So welcome today.
Thanks, Tracy. Maybe I'll end up in your shoes in a few years' time. But yeah, look, as I say, really excited to be part of this session today. Really just going to be sharing my thoughts on what I'm seeing in the market. The advice that I'm going to provide is hopefully going to ensure that you can position yourself as a data professional in the current market to make sure you're really visible and you're thinking really strategically about what to say in an interview, what to put on the CV, how to build your LinkedIn profile, and also I think maybe to help shape your mindset on how to present yourself as a data professional in the workplace, and really how to spot opportunities to accelerate your career. So the first slide that we're going to run through today is really kind of running through a bit of an insight, I suppose, and a bit of an overview into what the market looks like today. I've worked in this industry, as I say, for over 17 years. So when I started, data-driven marketing and direct marketing and database marketing was what I focused on. So a lot of subscriptions-based businesses, a lot of direct mail, door drops, all driven by databases. So fast forward 15, 16, 17 years, and we're in a very advanced landscape, which heavily focuses on, particularly from a customer point of view, the personalization of a customer experience. And certainly post-pandemic, data and digital as well, you know, broadly speaking, are hugely valuable skill sets to every business, whether it's B2B or B2C, startup or global brand. So there is a place for every data professional, I think, within the modern working world. And the kind of core skill sets over the last, certainly I would say 18 months, that have really become the most sought after are listed below in no particular order, but I will talk about the first skill set, which at the moment really probably is the most in demand, and that's data engineering. So I'll talk about data engineering and data science perhaps together, because they are very closely linked and form very much part of the same pipeline. But in the last 5 or 6 years, the term data science in particular has really grown and matured. And data science has existed for a very long time. It is simply very advanced statistical analytics and modeling. So we now talk about machine learning and AI a lot of the time as if they were new skill sets, but they have been around for many years. They've just been existing primarily within academia, within the research functions of universities and the management consultancies, and possibly sometimes termed slightly differently. But we have seen a massive acceleration in the market from clients and from employers alike who wish to bring those skills in-house and start to build their own functions. So data science, machine learning and AI, broadly speaking, has been a very sexy kind of skill industry, if you like, for the last, as I say, 5 or 6 years. And there's been a huge demand for people with those profiles. And I'll just talk a little bit about each of the different skill areas that we've listed here and typically what those profiles look like. So if we're talking about a data scientist, which is a broad term, it covers lots and lots of different techniques and methodologies that you might employ to solve lots of different problems, to build lots of different models. But normally you would have a degree in a numerate subject, and normally that would be computer science or machine learning. Maths and statistics as well would probably be quite typical, but clients will normally be looking for people with, as I say, those quite specific subject matter degrees. And you, again, typically might be going to work within a large retailer, for example, who might be asking you to build recommendation engines that assist with the personalization of a customer journey. You might be going to work within a big bank or an insurance company where you're looking at things like pricing algorithms and building, AI models around that. There's been quite a big surge and a big demand for data science skills within the pharmaceutical and healthcare sector, particularly as a lot of the manufacturers move towards a direct-to-consumer model. And obviously, operationally, data science and particularly AI is being embedded into operational processes and units within businesses, particularly around supply chain. So data science is an advanced form of predictive analytics, predictive modeling, but there's a bit of a crossover with kind of broader statistical analysts as well. But there's still a big demand in that area. Data engineering is a really interesting one. So data engineering is probably the most in-demand skill set in the market at the moment within data. So your data engineers will be building, very, very simply put, will be building the pipelines of data that feed into the data science teams. So making sure that all the different sources that you're pulling data from are all mapped correctly, the integrity of the data is there. If that isn't, if the foundations aren't right, the rest of the work that you're doing is almost, a moot point. So it's a really, really integral part of that whole end-to-end ingestion of data into a business, and then, the output of that into the commercial unit. So it's absolutely essential. And as businesses over the last, as I say, 5 or 6 years have really accelerated their hiring around bringing in data scientists, people that can build really, really advanced models and algorithms and code, the importance of the foundational work has really grown. And finding good data engineers who can work in a business-facing capacity is quite difficult. So again, we're starting to see this transition of trying to bring technical skills into a business, but making sure that those people can talk to the non-technical stakeholders, because it's all very well building your foundations and making sure that the data to be used, the integrity around the data and the processes and the housing of it is in situ. But if you're not able to then talk to the rest of the people that are going to be using the data to make sure that there's an ongoing management of that, then again, there's a breakdown in that pipeline, in that kind of communication. So more often than not, we're trying to find data engineering skills coupled with a consultative kind of nature, these softer skills, this ability to talk to your peers, to your stakeholders, to very senior level management. But it's a very hot topic at the moment, and it's a skill short market. So data engineering would be a great skill area for people to go into if they wanted to look at one of these areas. So that's kind of the technical part of this pipeline that I like to visually talk about when we're talking about the whole end-to-end of ingestion of data, the really advanced data science work, the model building, the coding, and then we move on to the more exploratory analytics, the insights-led work, the evaluation of a marketing campaign, the understanding of how a customer might operate. So data visualization and storytelling has again, I think probably secondary to data engineering, had a massive growth period in terms of its popularity in the last 18 months or so. I try to attend quite a few events over the course of the year, and one that I would highly recommend is Big Data London, which unfortunately I didn't get to this year. I was away, but it's a fantastic event. They always have market leading speakers, CDOs, directors, heads of from businesses that are investing heavily into data. So a really obvious theme, I think, from last year's Big Data London, so this was last September, was that actually, without the foundational work being there, all this really sophisticated stuff that we're trying to do with machine learning and AI is falling by the wayside, and we're not able to land that work with real, true commercial impact, or to the level that we would want to, because our foundations aren't there. So, you talk about the foundations of the data from a technical perspective, but in addition to that, there was a really heavy theme around actually just bringing data to life, getting people to buy into the use of data within their everyday decision making, whether you're in marketing, finance, sales, operations, it doesn't matter. Businesses are trying to embed data within every single unit across their company. So gone are the days where an analyst would primarily be working with the marketing team because we're trying to improve targeted marketing or understand our customers better. Data science and analytics is now finding its way into all of these different units, and it's being centralized more often than not. So the importance of the visualization of data and being able to tell the story behind the data is massive, because if you can't do that, again, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle with your stakeholders. And I remember Helen Mannion, who's the CDO of Specsavers, talking about this a lot last year. And they have big teams, 30 data scientists, 30 engineers, 50 analysts. So they're a pretty big organization. They've invested a lot into data over the last few years. But she described their data maturity on a scale of 1 to 10 at about a 2. And what she's talking about when she talks about data maturity is actually, when we're really honest with ourselves, how often are these projects landing and being used by our stakeholders? How many champions do we have across the business actually using data to drive their decisions? And the answer for them was not enough. And she decided at that point that she wanted to really, again, stop fighting this uphill battle and start to work with those that believed in the power of data. And the people that can really elevate data within a business are quite often those that build the visualization. So they're not doing the really advanced coding work. They're doing some reporting. They're providing some commentary on that reporting. But the key bit is when you're presenting to your board or to your stakeholders, you can deliver the information in a way that resonates with your audience, and they really are truly engaged with what you're saying, and they really do take away the insights and the recommendations that you've spent all that time building, and they really do start to put it into practice within their own processes and their own decision making. So you then truly find that data is driving the business. People talk about data-driven businesses, data-driven decision making all the time. But I know from having spent so long in this sector that the frustrations of the typical analyst is still that a lot of the work falls by the wayside. So if you have a skill around being able to actually bring data to life, build visualizations, then that is massively valuable. And so many people in this market are looking for individuals who can actually tell a story behind the data and actually build beautiful visualizations. So not just a bunch of pie charts or graphs. It's actually, how do you think about your audience and give them visuals and give them information that's going to resonate with them. So you might need to change the way you present the information depending on the person or the team or the business unit that you're talking to. And having the skill to do that is a creative skill. And it's also being able to put yourself in the shoes of your stakeholders. And it's also being able to really understand, what is the story behind this data? What's the information and the message behind all the numbers and the facts and figures that I've got here? So that is a different skill set, and it is a standalone skill set, and it's really only just starting to be recognized as that. So that's something that we've seen a massive demand for in the last couple of years, particularly, I think, post-pandemic, and I think also particularly since we've seen a bit of a market slowdown in the last year as well. I think that there's a slightly different lens now on data and a slightly different type of importance that's being placed on that kind of visualization, insights, reporting piece. So that moves me on nicely to the kind of role of the data strategist. And this is an interesting journey that I think we've seen. What used to be called a data planner, I did a whole vlog on this, what used to be called a data planner is now really termed as a data strategist, and an even more recent term, really only in the last year, that I've started to see come through in the market is data evangelist, data innovator. So I'll start at the beginning. So as I say, back in the day, 15 plus years ago, when I started recruiting in this market, very typically your big direct marketing agencies would hire data planners, and the role of the data planner, more often than not, was to buy data in for their clients from different sources, and then to plan that data for the use of targeted marketing. So for door drops, for magazine inserts, and eventually we moved on to email marketing as well. So it's literally, okay, who do we want to target? What's the data that we need in order to do that? Let's build that into how we're going to, or who we're going to send our campaigns to. So that's where data-driven marketing really started. And that was very prescriptively the role of the data planner. As that role and the agencies that those roles sat within evolved, we started to see the term data strategist come through, and the role became broader. It became more analytical. So we were asked to find people who could not just do this quite prescriptive planning piece, but could also think strategically about the broader use of data within the organization. So as an organization, if you're, for me anyway, most of my clients are customer-led, they're B2C organizations. What data do we need in order to better understand our customers and therefore to improve our targeted marketing? So the question became broader and the focus became broader, and so the skill set became broader. So more often than not, I would be targeting people who were either an analyst that wanted to move away from the number crunching and wanted to become more of a strategic thinker and wanted to think about the use of data for customer and marketing purposes. I might look at somebody who'd been a data planner who really demonstrated that they could be solutions focused in general, and they could think strategically beyond the brief about, okay, how else can we use this data within this organization to improve overall performance? It might not just be looking at the customer, it might be, working with another business unit. So the role, it evolved, as I say, over probably a period of about 10 years, and data strategists are really difficult roles to recruit for because they are no longer prescriptive, and people can move into these roles from an analyst background. They might be a management consultant, so they're naturally working in a consultative environment. They might be doing something in marketing communications, but they're particularly data literate. So they can come in many different guises, and that's what I love about the market now. It's much more fluid than it once was. It used to be very prescriptive, and people would sit in boxes. I think now we've seen a bit of an evolving there. And then, as I say, literally in the last year or so, we've started to see the title data evangelist come into the market. And that is a different role, but it's not too different to a data strategist. There's only a couple of examples I can think of, people that I know that are actually working in these kind of positions. And there's one gentleman who works within a big brand, and he kind of floats across the company, and he is the champion of data for that business. He is the evangelist. He represents data across every business unit. He talks to people at different levels, all the way through to C-suite. His background is a blend of customer analytics, and he's done some data strategy work as well. And you tend to find that data strategy, as you become more senior in analytics, naturally becomes part of your remit and your way of thinking anyway. But more often than not, businesses nowadays have people doing those as two separate roles. So he is kind of having to constantly prove his position, if you like, because it's quite a new role in the market. And as I say, data is an amazing industry, and it's never been more important or prevalent, but there's still a lot of challenges when it comes to actually getting people to use data to drive decisioning. So the role of the data evangelist is not an easy one, but if you have the passion and the energy and the credibility to really go into a business and try and disrupt and drive change and win hearts and minds, it can be hugely valuable. It can change the way the whole company operates. So he's quite senior in that role. I think a data evangelist type position you might start to find as you do when new role profiles evolve or emerge, is that they start off very senior, and then you start to find that businesses hire those roles in at slightly more junior levels, and they might have a data evangelist within 2 or 3 different business units within the organization. So it's one to watch, I would definitely say. And lastly, moving on to the insights analyst, the reason that I didn't just put analyst, because it covers many different areas, I decided to kind of state that the role is an insights analyst because the insights is the most important bit. So you might be a really technical analyst, you might be primarily just trying to uncover trends in the data. So you're not doing loads of heavy coding, you're actually just trying to look for answers to questions or commonalities, or as I say, trends or patterns. And it's this ability to decipher insights, useful information for other people from large amounts of data. It's really simple, but it's not that easy to do. So an insights analyst could be a digital insights analyst working with digital data, looking at, a customer journey across a website and interaction with an app. You could be a product insights analyst, specifically looking at the performance of the app or the website as a product. Very typical job title is a customer insights analyst, somebody that is trying to uncover insights around a customer, and that then always feeds into the products that company is selling or building, the marketing that they're doing, etc. So number 5, the insights analyst is a role that I've been working on for my whole career. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be needed by organizations. But I would say that the kind of top skills that are in demand at the moment, the really hot skills, I would say data engineering and the visualization and storytelling piece. So this is what businesses are looking for at the moment. Any thoughts on that at all, Tracy? Any trends that you've seen from your side as a career coach that you want to add? You're on mute.
Apologies for that. I think it's a really great example of the range of different career paths that you can take in data. I mean, you've given just a fantastic insight there. And I think as a career coach, what I'd really encourage every one of you to do is don't just think about the next job. Think about where that leads you in your career. Think about what success looks like for you. I know it's always a difficult question, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? But if you can stand back and reflect on that, it will mean you'll make the right decision about the next step, which will take you towards those longer term goals. So great, do your research on all the different types of roles out there, but think about what things do you really enjoy doing? Do you like to be at that very technical end and you think that's where you want to stay? Do you love the storytelling? Do you love the interaction with different parts of the business and seeing your insights actually affecting business decisions? So it's working out what it is that you really enjoy about work. If you're just starting out, it's looking back at what you have enjoyed through your education, through the hobbies that you do. If you're changing careers, it's really important to take the bits that you've enjoyed with the career that you've had so far and try and get those into this new career in data. And if you're advancing, what do you want to do more of? Where do you want to head towards? So it's that standing back and thinking about short term what's next, but also medium and ideally, if you can, longer term goals, because then that first step or this next phase of your career will take you in the direction that you want to go.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tracy. Great advice. Yeah, would mirror that and second that all the way. On to the next slide, please, Sam. Okay, so a lot of what I've just talked about there, we were talking about both a blend of technical and kind of softer skills, if you like. So the non-data skills that will make you the most attractive candidate in this market, for me, I would describe them as the softer skills. I put a post out about this yesterday and had a comment. Somebody said, oh, I've always described them as professional skills, but I think it's absolutely right to recognize them as softer skills because this is the human element of what anybody does, really, does well within any job, but particularly within data. So as I was just talking quite a lot there about being able to bring the data to life through storytelling, the work that you do, you know, and this isn't, you know, this isn't gospel, this is not a blanket statement, but it is a strong theme, I would say, with the roles that I recruit for in the areas that I've mentioned, is being able to make the data accessible for your stakeholders and be able to connect the dots for them is really important. So, you know, you are quite often the technical expert, you're going to do the really advanced analytics work, you're going to build the model, you know, your stakeholder in marketing or sales may not have any idea about, you know, the value of data or how it really works. Funnily enough, I'm terrible with numbers. I find it, you know, really difficult to digest. But when I'm talking to my candidates or my clients, most of them have this, you know, ability to really talk to me in layman's terms about the skills they're looking to hire, what the role does, and it makes complete sense. And that is a skill in itself. And it is more often than not the hardest piece of the puzzle for us to find. And it is more often than not the biggest headache for clients. So we normally, on a briefing, rattle through all the technical requirements. It's kind of a given. And they say to me, Kate, we need someone that can be business or client facing. We need someone that has good communication skills is a term that you'll see on every single job description. To be more specific, you need to have a communication style that is engaging. So it's about the information you choose to present and talk through. It's the way that you describe things. It's the tone of your voice. It's the energy with which you talk through that. And I think, you know, being passionate about something always really, really helps. English may not even be your first language, but you can still get a message through to a stakeholder, you know, using the right tone and the right direction and the right language. So bringing the data to life through storytelling is really important. And that storytelling piece, again, it's about giving context to the question and then the answer. There might be a journey that you need to take the stakeholder on for them to understand how you've got from A to B. And it's also, I suppose, making it relevant for them, as I said earlier. So I remember working on a brief once for a big retail fashion company, and they showed me a deck that somebody had put together. And the information in each slide was pretty minimal, but the visuals they'd used to present the data and the photographs they put in there and the branding, it told a very clear story. So that's really important. Again, second to this, something I was mentioning earlier, winning hearts and minds. What does the data do for me? You've got to make the information, the data, the analytics that you are presenting, delivering, whether it's in an actual presentation or in a report that you send on an email, whether it's in an Excel spreadsheet, you've got to make sure that it resonates with your end user, with your stakeholder, because you're only going to capture their imagination and get their engagement with using the work that you're doing moving forward if it makes sense to them. What's in it for them? You've got to make sure that it lands with the individual. And then an intellectually curious mindset. So this is the only way I could think to how to describe this, and there's lots of other ways, but it's about going above and beyond the brief. So again, there are lots of very prescriptive analytics roles out there, loads. You know, you're given a brief, you deliver to it, and you move on to the next thing. So this is more about, I suppose, these roles that I tend to get typically and that I perceive to be the most in demand in the market. It's the ability to take a question from a stakeholder, take a problem from a stakeholder, come back to them with a solution. But you might also say, I did find the answer to your question, but I wondered why I landed on that answer. And I thought, let me just go and do an additional piece of analysis because there could be something else there. And there always is. There's always something else you can find in the data. There's always more to the answer than you might first think. And that's where the real value add is. If a client, for me, hires somebody that has this mindset, they're constantly going to be adding value for the business. They're constantly going to be, not that you have to, but justifying their position within the business. And then things like growth opportunities, promotion, more visibility, more credibility within an organization will just come naturally. And again, you can apply that to lots of different skill sets, but in data, it's tricky to find, because naturally, you know, a lot of analysts and data scientists tend to be very technically minded. They're excited by writing the code or building the model. You know, that's what primarily this role is about. But if you have a solutions focused mind, if you're good at problem solving, particularly with this skill, this non-data skill, the open doors for you would absolutely be a data evangelist, a data strategist, a management consultant that's constantly going into different clients and solving problems using data. So it's a really, really valuable skill to have. And it doesn't come naturally to everybody, but if you can get your mind set into a place where you are not just looking at answering a question, it's, okay, let me see beyond that what additional value I can add, you will be recognized as a very valuable asset within that business. And so final point, to kind of almost summarize, I suppose, all of that, but it's finding the why and the so what in data. I remember the first time I heard the term, the so what, and it was when I used to do some work for a company called Amia that used to run the Nectar card scheme for Sainsbury's and a number of other sponsors. And they used it in every single brief that they put out. What's the so what behind the data? So you're coming to me with some information about our customer. What do I do with that? You know, I'm a campaign manager. How does that work for me? So it's, again, it's telling the story behind the data. It's making it meaningful. It's pulling out the critical piece of information that's actually going to make a difference to that piece of communication that goes out to that customer, to that promotion that you run within that retailer, to the way that you slightly reposition that product. So it's the so what behind the data. So it's really, again, looking behind the numbers, looking behind the results, drawing out the insight, drawing out what's really meaningful. So conscious that we've got a couple more slides to get through, I should say. So Sam, it'd be great if we can move on to the next slide, please.
Sorry, can I just add, Kate?
Yes, sorry, Tracy.
That's okay. Just to echo what Kate said there about transferable skills, most individuals, when I start working with them, are not able to articulate the breadth and depth of skills that they have got. Particularly the human skills that Kate was talking about, the problem solving, the communication ability, the time management, all those sorts of things. So I really encourage you to start reflecting on what your strengths and skills are. You know, think about your normal working day. What skills are you using? What strengths are you bringing to bear? Ask others. There's a lot of things that we're very good at that we don't acknowledge as being a strength of ours because they come so easily to us. But they come easily to us because we're very good at them. So it's the very thing we should be talking about. And if you ask other people, they'll go, "Oh, Kate, you're brilliant at," and you go, "Oh," Kate will think, "I thought everyone did that." No, they don't. It's because she's very, very good at those skills. So it's really, really understanding the strengths and skills that you've got. And what I'd add to that is to say, you know, I encourage people to make this great long list, but then cross out anything they don't really enjoy. You know, if there's a particular thing that you happen to be good at, just because you're good at it doesn't mean you have to do it. Focus on the things that you're good at, that you love, not just everything. And that's the way you'll get a career that you absolutely love. So it's really thinking deeply about the skills and the strengths that you already have, which is really, really important. Sorry, Kate.
Yeah, again, brilliant advice, Tracy. I would echo all of that. And I've even found that in my career as well, actually. So thank you for that. And again, like hopefully nicely brings us on to this next slide, which is all around building a personal brand. And when I talk about the personal brand, we're talking about both your LinkedIn profile and also your CV. So we are very lucky here at Salt. We get lots of training and development, and we, a lot of us actually, I should say, not all of us, but a lot of us did a course with an external company who gave us loads of hints and tips and strategies around how to really elevate our LinkedIn profiles. And it takes a lot of work. You know, LinkedIn is no longer just a business, a social business platform. It is a social media platform, really. You know, people are posting about their weekends with the dog in the forest and their holidays and new babies and all these kind of things. So there's there's a lot of a personal element that started to infiltrate LinkedIn, and I think it was inevitable. You know, I think it's just with the popularity of the platform, that's the way it's gone. But interestingly, I think post-pandemic, people are much more vulnerable and open and honest when they are having business conversations. So whether you're a candidate talking to a recruiter, whether it's me talking to a potential new client, whether it's, you know, a business partner talking to another potential business partner, conversations have changed in the last few years since COVID. So I found through lockdown, you know, I was talking to my candidates and my clients that I'd known for many years, and prospective new candidates and clients about my personal life and what was happening and how I was feeling about things. And so business relationships changed. They became much more personal, which I think is a brilliant thing. And so the content that you started to see on LinkedIn changed as well. I think it really quickly moved far more towards personal content. You know, people have very honest conversations now on that platform about incredibly serious topics. So I think it's, if you can open your mind to that and really think about your LinkedIn page, not just being professional, it's really important to maintain the professionalism. And it's hard to get the balance. It is hard. You have to think about the content that you put on there, and if you are going to post or interact, what you do and say. But what I would say is be vulnerable and try and make it so that it really reflects you and who you are and your personality and what interests you, because the content on your LinkedIn profile and then the interactions you have on the platform, the algorithm is going to work with that, and it's going to feed you, you know, people that are similar to you. It's going to feed you articles that you know might mirror what you've already read or clicked on. So it is important, the way it's the same with any other social media platform, the way you interact with it is going to organically through the algorithm grow with you. So it's important to think about the information that you put out there. And if you're out there proactively looking for a new job and you don't have the luxury of working with a recruiter, because the market is tougher at the moment, so candidates are having to do more legwork, it is really important to try and interact with people that you might want to work for as much as possible to elevate your visibility within their feed and generally within the wider network. So these are some tips that we were given by this external training company. And the key here is consistency. If you do all of these things every day and every week, and you connect with people, that's really important. You have to build your network, otherwise you're shouting in an empty room. You can guarantee that your visibility and the number of people that might proactively come and talk to you and the response rates that you get on your messages to prospective employers or people that you want to talk to and get advice from in the industry will improve dramatically. So these are kind of the things that we would do, which is really important for our job. But I would say some of the most prolific data experts in the market, people that have elevated their own personal brand through LinkedIn, have followed these rules. So a couple of people that I can think of, you know, they've not worked for the sexiest brands in the market. You know, they've not worked for your Googles and your Metas and Ubers and all those kind of big tech companies that, you know, very typically hire lots of very technical people. They've worked really hard on building their own personal voice within the room of LinkedIn. And this one particular gentleman I'm thinking of is very senior and he's very credible, has now found himself into the Data IQ Top 100 because he has built his own voice and people know who he is and they respect his opinion. So you can do this, you know, that's probably quite an extreme example. We don't all need to become influencers, but it is really important, I think, to start to build your own opinions about the data market that you are already operating in or want to operate in. So putting a post out once a day, just once a day, you don't need to do anything more than that, before lunchtime is a good idea. It could be personal. I would probably maybe you could do one personal post a week if you felt comfortable doing it. You don't have to. Or you could just simply ask a question, or you could, you know, put an opinion out there as well. You know, this is a platform to become a thought leader. So posting, I would say, is important to raise your visibility on the platform. As I say, only posting once a day and lunchtime at the latest. Commenting on other posts is another really good way to build interaction, make new friends, make new contacts within the industry. And again, you know, trust me, what goes around comes around. You might find inadvertently that you get recommended for a job, or that somebody reaches out to you because they remembered something that you put on somebody else's post. It's all about remaining front of mind and remaining visible with the right people. And it's hard to measure. I get that. It's really hard to measure the work that you're doing, the activity that you're doing. But trust me, it does come full circle as long as you're consistent. And it doesn't happen overnight. Again, this is something people may or may not feel comfortable doing. You know, you don't necessarily need to put a personal picture out there, but a visual always improves the visibility on LinkedIn. I always get more impressions on my posts if I have put an infographic or a logo or a photograph. Personal photographs do work well every so often, not all the time, because you're showing you, people see the person behind the profile. And it's, you know, it just works. It's just how social media works. And as I say, you can keep it business focused. And then, as I say, sharing your thoughts and your insights and your knowledge. You know, everybody should and does have an opinion on what's going on in the world of data. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, even if somebody disagrees with you, even if you're not 100% sure if you're, you know, on the right lines. I mean, I'm not most of the time, but I put a post out, I think it was last week, and I only looked at one of the comments last night, and the validation that I received from this gentleman that I've known for years saying, yes, Kate, that's exactly what we hire in our business, like spot on. It's how you learn. It's how you reinforce the knowledge that you're building all the time. And we've got this incredible free platform where you can go and build knowledge, learn, educate yourself, connect with others in the same industry, interact with them. You know, if you just build the profile and you expect it to do the work for you and you just leave it, it's not going to happen. You've got to start to engage with people, and it's fun and it's interesting. So that's the kind of LinkedIn profile piece. I could go into huge amounts of detail about the content that you include on that, but we don't have time, unfortunately. But I would say, if you're interested in doing some more work on that, there are some great courses out there. Have a look at my profile and the way that I've put it together in terms of the actual content as well, because you'll see that mirrored across a number of the other people that work at Salt. Because we were kind of taught that the way that you engage people, the way you build empathy, and then a call to action at the end is marketing, essentially. So you can certainly have a look at that. And then the content, the tone and the language is really important. And this is, I mean, particularly for CVs. People always say, Kate, can you have a look at my CV and give me some feedback? It's cheesy and it's corny and it's a bit old school, but the statistic remains the same. When a recruiter, or typically a line manager or an internal talent person, is sifting through nowadays, honestly, hundreds of CVs, you have to grab their attention within 7 seconds. We are scanning CVs that quickly on a daily basis. Cover letters are a thing of the past. Don't bother with a cover letter, in my opinion, especially if you're just applying through directly to a business or sending your CV to a recruiter. It won't get read. Really focus on the CV, and the language that you use within that CV is really, really important. So again, you know, you'll have your own communication style. If it needs a bit of work, if your written communication needs some work, it's well worth investing into some courses or getting some feedback from friends or family or professional colleagues or peers. But being able to articulate in an engaging manner what you've done, how you've done it, and why you did it and what the outcome was can be an absolute game changer. It doesn't need to be reams and reams of information. And that's the tricky part, actually, is being able to do that quite succinctly is quite hard. So when I'm scanning through a really good CV, there are keywords jumping out at me. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but some example keywords, if I was looking through an analyst CV and I needed them to be business facing and to have all those engaging skills that we talked about earlier, I would be looking for keywords like influence, engage, recommend, bring to life, resonate, present. I wouldn't be looking for Python, R, SQL, computer science, machine, I wouldn't be looking for the technical keywords. It's the other language that I'm looking for there. Can they really and truly talk eloquently about what they do? Because if they can do it on the page, they'll be able to do it in an interview. And we've got a great chance of securing that role for them, because we need them to be business facing. So the content of your CV is so important, and the language you use is really, really key. Don't use an AI tool to write your CV for you. Do not do that. Really important that there's a human element to what you're talking about and how you're describing it. And that, if you're passionate about what you're doing, like Tracy was saying earlier, try and find the role that resonates with you, that plays to your strengths, that gives you opportunity. And when you talk about that on your CV, don't worry about it being super professional and really dry and prescriptive and management speak. You don't need that. You need something that sings from the page. The best CVs are passionate. They're talking about what they love. I love doing this. I really want to learn more about that. I worked on this fantastic project. Actually, fantastic is the worst word to use, but I worked on a really impactful project that resonated with the stakeholders and resulted in, a 200% ROI. And they now run that model in production today. And I did that. It's about owning what you did. It's not easy. It's not easy to get that onto a page and to get it to really land. So really think about the information that you put into the CV. And again, you'll be able to find some great examples online. It's worth doing your research. Tracy, any other thoughts on that before we move on?
No, I think like to add, it's understanding your brand and being able to articulate that concisely. When you talk to a recruiter, I am a insight analyst with expertise in X, Y, and Z, attracts their attention when you're speaking to them. It's the same message that's on your CV. It's the same message that's on LinkedIn. So you need to understand your own personal brand, and that's based on those strengths and skills that I was talking about before. And you need to be able to articulate it. 100% agree with Kate about personality in a CV. Allow your personality to come through and allow those human skills to come through as well. I think the other thing just to say about LinkedIn, obviously massive fan of LinkedIn. Networking is very, very important, whether you're changing careers, advancing, or starting your career. So you get used to using it as a networking tool. Networking is not just about finding the next job. It's not just for Christmas networking, it is for life. So get into the habit of networking, and that will allow jobs to come to you, recruiters to find you, your networks to find you, and a lot more opportunities will become available to you if you understand your brand, can articulate it well, and then get that message out to as many people as possible by engaging with lots of different individuals and also posting on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Next, I think final slide, Sam. I think so. This is about how to prove you can add commercial value. So, just going full circle, actually, back to the first topic that we're looking at. What are the kind of hot skills in the market at the moment? Data science is and was a very, very sexy job type, a very sexy skill that was being hired in mass numbers for the last few years. But the shift that I've seen in the market, as I say, over the last 18 months, where people are really starting to focus on the basics again, getting the data right, making sure that we can bring it to life and actually get it landed with stakeholders, all of that circles back to the fact that it's quite difficult for data scientists to actually prove and land commercial value. Very long story short, because they have to get their models into production. Quite often they don't get there. So the actual role of the data scientist and that person being able to land commercial value, it's more difficult than some of the other skill areas that we looked at. So, for example, customer insight analytics is a pretty and marketing analytics as well, looking at campaign performance, pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy for you to be able to, for example, identify a problem or a solution or a trend and go and talk to your marketers and say, right, we need to change the way that we communicate with these customers. And if we do this, we're going to see an increase in, the uptake of this particular product. And because particularly in grocery retail, my goodness, the turnaround is so quick on these things, you can land commercial return within a week of identifying a particular problem or trend, because they operate at that pace. But the kind of work that they're doing has always got a commercial element to it. And whenever I'm looking at a CV, 9 times out of 10, I'm always looking for that person to have included not just a description of what they do, but as I said earlier, how you've done it, why you've done it, and what was the business impact. That last piece of the puzzle in any interview situation, when you're answering a question about what you did, always try and end with, and this was the business impact, and if you can link it to a commercial rate, you might not be able to in every single circumstance, but you need to understand what you were doing and how it affected other people and the business. And if you can link it to a commercial, fantastic. If you can link it to a tangible result, I would always try and do that. So some of the best CVs, they're just riddled with percentage increase here, and this model drove, an ROI improvement over here, and I saved the company £1 million. It's any examples like that you can take ownership of and that you can detail in your CV is going to make you stand out from the crowd. Because again, not everybody finds it easy to articulate that, but people just don't choose to include it. The amount of leadership CVs I've seen, and they just don't even touch on this stuff, it blows my mind. So it's important to include that. And then again, it's linking what you're doing to results. The same point really, but I'm just talking on a broader spectrum here. You might not specifically be talking about a monetary return on what you were doing, but understanding the purpose of your remit and your role is really important. Most businesses nowadays are looking for analysts, particularly, that can actually understand the wider business context of what they're doing. So that moves me on to context. Again, if you're going to give, so many times I see a list of bullet points. I built a predictive model. Well, what was the model that you built? Why did you build it? And what happened to that model? What's the context? What was the project? Very different statement. I was working on a customer churn project. We were tasked with building a predictive model. You would write it a lot more eloquently than this, and it landed and it delivered an ROI of X, Y, and Z. Again, you're taking that reader on a journey so they understand why you did it, how you did it, and what the result was. So you just always think about the information you include on a CV in that order. And the same, when you're answering a question in an interview, give the interviewer some context to the answer that they're looking for. It just brings it to life, and it's an opportunity to demonstrate your communication skills, your style, your ability to bring information to life. And then really owning what you as an individual have done and using the right language to reflect this. So, people work in teams, they work in silos, they work independently. Being able to actually carve out what you specifically have owned, delivered, achieved, been passionate about, and using the language to reflect that in your CV is really, really important. Just, prescriptive, dry CVs are just the worst. They are, in my experience, they're going straight on the no pile because there's a lot of choice out there. So these are ways that you can, quite simple ways that you can really elevate your CV, your LinkedIn profile to stand out from the crowd. It immediately tells the reader something about you. I'll make many assumptions about that person based on the language they use and their ability to really own what they've done. And you should do, this is a CV and a LinkedIn profile is you showing off. This is your platform, this is your stage, this is your soapbox. Don't ever assume that the reader will make certain assumptions. There's again a bit of an art to balancing stating the obvious and choosing what information to include in a CV, and that's where a career coach or somebody that's specifically specializes in writing CVs can really help you, because it's not that easy. Tracy, anything to add on that last?
No, I know we're short of time. I just reiterate everything you said. I think I see so many CVs the first time and it just reads like a job description. It's like, yes, but what did you do? It's the so what question you asked earlier, I'm responsible for. Well, so what did you do it well? Did you do it badly? So it's being able to articulate that. And also the thing you said there about owning your achievements, owning your strengths. So many people say, well, I don't like to blow my own trumpet. Well, if you don't blow it, somebody else is going to blow theirs. So you need to be able to not say I'm the best thing ever, but you do need to be able to say, this is what I've done. These are the things I bring to the table. This is what I've delivered for other people. This is what I'm bringing to you and your organisation.
Thank you so much, Kate and Tracy. We've got time for 1 or 2 questions. So just quickly going to run through these. Kate, so Emma asked you if you like her and don't really like LinkedIn or any other social media, what are some baby steps for making your first post? So she's honestly just quite a bit scared to post anything. For example, is it worth her sharing how her career transitioning is going?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, the more vulnerable you can be, the better. People are so supportive. If you've got, especially think about who's in your network. If you've got a network of 100 people, you probably know them all. If you've got a network of 5,000 people, you probably know well a small percentage, but you're connected to those people for a reason, and vice versa. And think about it, you know, if somebody puts a really vulnerable post out there, most of the time you support it. Most of the time you think good for them. And actually, that I like that person, that tells me something about them. They've been brave enough to do that. And I think I mean, it's all PR is good PR, right? I think keep that in the back of your mind. Even if you say something, you think, oh, it's a bit cringy, or I'm not sure I should, it doesn't matter. The likelihood people are going to read it, they're going to support it. If it really resonates with them, they'll remember it. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to move on to the next post. So, you know, the world is very fickle these days. So don't overthink it. And you could even say, you know, something really vulnerable. I'm going to work really hard this year on building out my LinkedIn profile. This is my first post, a little bit scared, would love some support. I guarantee you're going to get, you know, a number of likes, a number of supportive hands and love hearts and all that kind of stuff. And then I would suggest, find some people whose opinion you respect and follow them. I follow a lady called Sol Rashdi. So S-O-L, I think this is correct, Rashdi. She's based in America. I think from memory, I can't remember if she's still there or not, but she was very, very senior in data for Estee Lauder. She is a huge thought leader. She always puts out fascinating posts and I always interact with her. So I've tried to interact with 2 or 3 really visible, influential people in data on LinkedIn. And I might read something she said and it makes me think, that's fascinating. I thought that. I'll just put out a quick post about it. It doesn't matter how much engagement you get, but it's how many people see the post. So, you know, you might track the impressions on your post. You might get 10 people have seen it one day, 20 the next, but it doesn't matter. Even if you only get 2 or 3 people looking at your content every day, it's 2 or 3 people more than you had looking at your profile, looking at what you're putting out there yesterday. So small numbers, big numbers, it doesn't matter. I would do something quite vulnerable. If you're not comfortable with that, go and find somebody you like and interact with them, and then maybe reshare their post with a little comment about your thoughts on why you liked it. Something really simple. It can be 1 line, it can be a paragraph. You don't even have to say anything, you might just repost it. But the more comfortable you get with doing it, it's a new learned behavior that I'm sure the better you'll get at that.
Great, thank you so much. So we are running out of time. I have popped a link into the chat for anyone interested in downloading a brochure, and if you would like to speak to one of our enrollment advisors, you can fast track your data analytics career in just 6 months with our online program. Learn from LAC and industry experts to analyze data, tell compelling data-driven stories, and drive informed decision-making. The start date is October 16th with limited spots available.